I'm feeling good.
We can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people.
Y'all gotta listen to Trump sometimes, because that shit was spiritual. Now, some folk, I just watched this clip. Let me tell y'all, let me back it up, because y'all know I can run forward when I really need to catch y'all up to what the hell I'm running for. Okay, so we're talking about the birthright citizenship, right? And Trump in the press conference talking about the 14th Amendment was for the babies of slaves. Okay, not folk coming here on vacation, not folk not just coming here and doing shit, you know, the wrong way, whatever. And he kept saying that, the babies of slaves, the babies of slaves, right? Y'all know why that's funny and why that tickled me? Why that tickled me on a spiritual level is because in them diaspora wars, what did folk like to call us? What was one of their favorite insults? Slave babies. Slave babies. And Trump said the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, was for the babies of slaves.
Donald Trump just won one of the biggest wins that he's ever won. You ever notice that when Donald Trump tries to implement any of the policies that he ran on, some random judge from somewhere will just pop up out of nowhere and start interjecting with their ideas? Well, those days are over. The Supreme Court just ruled in favor for Donald Trump against all of these judges. So now Donald Trump can finally get more important policies passed in this country without any issue or blowback. One of them being birthright citizenship. A lot of people are very ignorant in this country. They don't even know why birthright citizenship was created. It was created to ensure equal rights to formerly enslaved people after the Civil War. Not for people to come to this country and use it as a finesse tool to become an American citizen. That is not why it was created. And it should have been gone a long time ago, if I'm being honest. Things are finally going to start getting done around this bitch. Even though Donald Trump has been doing a damn good job, considering that every time he tries to get any of his policies done, somebody over here pops up with how they feeling. Oh no, I have an idea, and that judge over there wants this, and that judge over there all of that's over. God bless America, man.
Trump said, enough! Y'all got to go. So, if you weren't the baby of one of them, you know, those American Indians, those copper-colored people, or one of those North Africans, those dark black people that was enslaved, baby, if you're not a descendant of them people, you got to go. Only way you staying is if you one of us or if you white. That's it. He ain't playing with y'all. Y'all been going off on us, black Americans. Baby, if you ain't one of us, you got to get up out of here, he said. You ain't one of us. I'm just getting ready to sit back and watch the show like I've been doing. It's amazing. There's a lot of votes that happened because the way they did, because they thought they were gonna impact us mostly negatively, and that shit is like hurting everybody else right now. Now, I'm not saying I'm, happy with the fact that other people are being hurt. I don't like nobody to be hurt. The thing is, nobody cares when we're getting hurt. That's the thing. Like Denzel Washington that said on Training Day, karma is a bitch, baby. And it's best served cold. And that is how Trump served that damn speech today. Well, We'll see what happens. Just sit back and watch. I don't know. What y'all think about all this? Drop a comment.
Listen, black people, the ruling on birthright citizenship, I personally don't have any problem with it. I have no smoke with it. I have no drama with it. I don't want it to be retroactive. I got a lot of brown people that are friends, a lot of Latinos that are my amigos. But moving forward, I have absolutely no problem with the ruling, regardless of how it goes. You heard what the man said? The 14th Amendment was put in place for the descendants of slaves. Last time I checked, me and my people, my homies, my brothers, my dogs, we the descendants of the so-called slaves. So what are we mad at that he ain't talking to us? Learn to pick your face. Stay out of grown people business. Ain't that what your mom used to tell you? I have no problem with it. Don't fix it right there on bottles.
Based on what the Supreme Court did today, if anybody is having any conversations around birthright citizenship or citizenship as a whole, if you do not know who this man is, you should be ashamed of yourself. Because it's as a result of Dred Scott that birthright citizenship can exist. Dred Scott was enslaved by a U.S. Army surgeon by the name of Dr. John Emerson. Emerson took Mr. Scott to an area which would be considered between Illinois and Wisconsin, which at the time, slavery was illegal. When Emerson died, Dred Scott tried to buy his and his wife's freedom from Emerson's widow, to which she refused. And this man, in the 1800s, sued her. This black man's case went to the Supreme Court in the 1800s. And one of the most infamous quotes that sets the precedence for how we are still treated in this country till this day as black Americans was stated by Chief Justice Robert B. Taney, that black people have no rights that a white man is bound to respect. The Dred Scott ruling of 1857 said that black people were not citizens, and that we were not even allowed to sue in federal court, that Congress had no power to ban slavery, which invalidated the Missouri Compromise, and that Mr. Dred Scott had no legal standing, although he was in a state where enslavement was illegal. Dred Scott passed 1 year later, never to have seen the abolishment of slavery in the 13th Amendment, nor the rise of birthright citizenship with the 14th Amendment. So let him be a reminder that citizenship has always been racialized and contested.
So y'all president got on here last night and said that the birthrights were only for the slaves. So the Supreme Court has ruled in his favor, saying that pretty much if you are a non-citizen and you have your child over here, that does not mean that your child is a citizen of the United States. Now, they claim that this is mostly, this law is being reversed mostly because of the immigrants that we have in this country. Now, from what I gathered with the research I gathered, about 35% of his votes came from the undocumented people. So now that he didn't got y'all to vote for him, now he's collectively getting y'all got to go. And what behooves me is I know it's about 2 or 3 of the Supreme Court's peoples. I know they descendants of immigrants. But we've been saying that they said they're gonna make America great again. They said they're gonna make America white again. So y'all got to go. Oh, we next. While some of y'all on here combing, I'm talking about hard. He said that was for the people in that year. So technically, if you was born outside of the year in slavery, that goes for you too, friend. And then it's funny that, you know, they can pick the laws that they want to change. But then when it's a law that's been in effect for so many years that benefits them, the clear people, it's an upstanding law. But if it's a law that gives any people of color or other descents any rights or anything, they trying to take it out. And for all you black MAGAs that's getting on here hollering about that's for us, baby, what part of this is just a prelude? Your asses, we finna be next. Why they told us a whole year ago. I remember this because I was on this app, that people needed to start carrying their birth certificates and their social security card. And look what happened. I don't care what color you are, you need to carry your birth certificate and your social security card. It's Spanish people that look just like me So hey, y'all sitting up here thinking that ain't for us. That's it, huh? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And for you, as they call y'all, poor trash, baby, I hate to tell y'all, but y'all finna be they servants, huh? It ain't even about curtain no more. It's about how much you got, how much of the corn yarn you got, and some of you clear people ain't got corn yarns either. So guess what? Y'all gonna be a slave. Yeah. So I'm just saying, I don't think y'all calculated all of this shit out, but I'm gonna tell y'all this: y'all better have y'all asses in. You better make sure that Senate and that Congress is different, because baby, it's gonna be a shit show. Do you hear me? It's gonna be 5 white people in America. I'm sorry, y'all. That's it. Because they getting them up out of here. Us too. But y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments. I know the MAGA people, y'all are not understanding the law and he's doing this for y'all. He's not. It's a setup from Todd. It's the pre-setup of the setup. And y'all is, again, okay, here we go. We tried to tell them. I didn't think that we get there. Tried to tell y'all. We tried to tell y'all, but y'all didn't really listen. Now, you came over here and had your baby over here thinking that your child is American. No. Hell, we ain't even American at this point. They're rewriting the whole motherfucking Constitution. If it ain't got shit to do with making these people more relevant, baby, it's out of here. We gonna have 6 amendments one time by the time he get through doing what he do. Tell me what you think.
Listen. Somebody who is smarter than me, please come to the front. I got questions.
And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system.
I see all the black folks in the comments celebrate. Whatever y'all want to celebrate, got it. But the words he's using was not making any sense to me. This is why I'm asking somebody smarter than me come in the comments and help me out, because I like to educate myself, because I'm not understanding how this is a win for black people. I'm gonna say not black people, foundational black Americans. I'm not seeing how this is a win. I see the acknowledgement in a way. The words he's using is they're trying to end birthright citizenship because that was meant for babies of slaves. The way he kept saying that, and I'm like, why does he keep saying those exact words? Just like he said it like 3 times, and it made me think. He's saying it's for babies of slaves, but not saying the descendants of slaves. Isn't there a difference? To me, it's not. But when I look in the comments, somebody said something like that, and I'm like, man, y'all gotta be careful with these slick talking white folks, especially Trump. Trump goes out and says some shit and everybody's hooting and hollering. I don't know why y'all trust these people. I don't know why y'all think these people got the best interest for so-called black people, for so-called foundational black Americans. I don't see how y'all think that they have the best interest for black people. So help me understand how this is a win. I'm only asking because the comments, you would think Trump was the best thing that happened to black people. Go look in the comments. I'm gonna try to, if I remember, I'm gonna put the link in the description. But this is just me trying to, because I love to educate myself. Why? Because I got brothers and sisters I rock with on that side, and they trying to get something back that's owed to them. But from y'all who really don't know shit, I don't really like to listen to y'all. I like to listen to the smarter people on this subject, because I'm just learning. I like to educate myself. So that shit, some about his rhetoric just didn't make sense to me. And when it comes to legal documentation, you got word for word, got to be on point. So the babies of slaves, is that the same of descendants of slavery? Just something to think about when it comes down to the fine print, because you know how these people are. They're treaty breakers. They don't keep their words. I found myself on the Republican side of TikTok, and the dude made this skit mocking them because this is the shit that they were saying.
Was the black that birthed you a slave? And I don't mean that new age slavery crap you're talking about with us only paying you pennies and minimum wage and not being able to afford things. Of course my mother wasn't a slave. Slavery supposedly ended a long time ago, right? See, so you're not a slave, even you admit it. So that means we can deport you up out of this country too. That's why we've been working on deporting people to countries that they weren't born in. You're gonna end up back in Africa.
Yeah, can't tell me about the Second Amendment. Baby, if you're not pouring in, and I mean pouring it in, shoving that stick down and ready to shoot, so no more blickies, the Glocks, you're going to have to put them down. Yeah, sorry about that, folks, but Trump daddy said it's no more. Birthright was meant for slaves, for babies of slaves. So I'm sorry. We really gotta start taking this stuff to heart now, because, you know, he knows so much about how this country was founded and everything. And honestly, at this point, we need to re-roll out the entire Constitution. Like, let's light this candle. Let's talk about the amendment number 8. We're supposed to be protected from cruel and unusual punishment, but every time orange guy gets on the screen, I'm feeling very cruel and punished.
All right, y'all. Another crazy day in the Supreme Court. So today, the Supreme Court handed down a decision in what's been called the Birthright Citizenship case. So Trump signed an executive order that was unconstitutional on its face that says that if you are born in the United States to someone who is undocumented or not a permanent resident, that you are not going to be considered a citizen. This is covered by the 14th Amendment, like explicitly in the 14th Amendment, it speaks to who is a citizen. So he signed this. There were several lawsuits. Courts, district courts, the lower courts, federal courts, in many places, put in place injunctions stopping this from moving forward across the nation. Nationwide injunctions to stop this, because citizenship actually should not be decided district by district, state by state. So the Supreme Court said the federal courts don't have that power. So the Supreme Court did not touch whether or not this thing was constitutional or not. The decision was about whether or not the courts could stop this as a national matter, and they said they don't. Justice 𝒲𝒶𝓎-𝒯ℛ𝒰 and 𝒲𝒶𝓎 both were challenging the fact that this is unconstitutional in space, and we should be stopping this. And there has to be, courts have to be a check on the judiciary. So two things to remember. One is they are trying to stop who gets to decide who gets to be a citizen and who doesn't. And they're clear that they are trying to make sure that people who are born here, not everybody who is born here is going to be considered citizen. Two is they are trying to take away the power of the federal courts. And why is that? Because the Trump administration wants unchecked power. They want to be able to move things without the courts getting in the way, telling them that things are unconstitutional. So this is crazy because guess what? There is a national class action lawsuit that was filed. That is great. As a civil rights lawyer, I'm applauding ACLU and others who brought that litigation because they are trying to protect everyone so that this isn't a patchwork of decisions. Two, that there are 28 states where there were no lawsuits that were brought. Attorney generals in those lawsuits did not bring cases to protect people in those states. And you can just imagine what states those are. I'll give you a few. Georgia, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, deep South states, and the middle of the country. So in those states, there are 30 days for them to file lawsuits. And you can imagine that the governor, the AG of Texas, they're not bringing a lawsuit because they're fine with the fact that people are not going to be considered citizens if born here to undocumented people. So this is problematic because, the Supreme Court is taking away the powers of the federal courts, of which they are part, to be a check on the authoritarian who's sitting in the White House. And two, they are really taking a sledgehammer to the 14th Amendment, which sets out the citizenship, but also due process. That's another case that was brought, which is due process is being eviscerated and killed, like the opportunity to be heard. They're like, yep, we're sending you someplace else to El Salvador, and you will not have an opportunity to be heard about whether or not you should be sent there and whether or not you need protections under the law. So this is the regime we're living with. Understand that all of our rights are at stake, fundamental rights. The 14th Amendment, which was passed in 1866, ratified in 1868, is under attack. But we got to keep fighting back and keep letting them know that this is not the country that we know. This is not the country that we built. This is not the country where we live. That we are not going to have authoritarianism take over. So there are no kings.
There is a Congress and there are courts, and we need everyone to play a role to be a check on what is happening.
Well. It's Attorney Montgomery, and I just gave you guys a weekly update on immigration, but we're back. And you know why we're back? Because the U.S. Supreme Court has made a ruling today, a 6-3 ruling that now is going to cripple federal judges and federal courts all around the country from being able to make decisions that would have sweeping impact on all immigration across the country. So what that means is that the U.S. Supreme Court has again sided with the Trump administration in their appeal as it relates to federal courts and federal judges having the authority to put in place injunctions until the cases are fully litigated. They are now limiting their power and ability to do so. So where they could protect people, whether you were a plaintiff or not, you could be protected in these cases. What they are now doing is limiting that. And so what does that mean for you? Donald Trump signed an executive order on day one as it relates to birthright citizenship. And if one of your parents or both of your parents were not U.S. citizens, then the baby born in the United States would not be considered a U.S. citizen. Even though the Constitution says if you are born on American soil, you are automatically a U.S. citizen. Justice Scalia further said that during his time on the Supreme Court. But here we are in 2025 in Trump's Supreme Court, right? And they are saying now that a president can unilaterally override a constitutional right. And if he can do that for one constitutional right, he can do that for so many more constitutional rights. So I want you guys to take that into consideration, what's really happening, because this is just the beginning. They continue to chip away at constitutional rights. Let's not get off topic. I don't want to digress. Let's focus on what's at hand. So what does that mean? The case is limited to the plaintiffs that were listed in that suit. And it was 22 states that filed this case against the Trump administration. So those 22 states, the injunction applies. However, if you are not in those 22 states and you have a child that is born in 30 days from now, so let's say, so today is June 27th. If you are born between now and July 27th, 2025, you're a U.S. citizen, you're okay. Anything before July 27th, 2025, you are okay. However, if you fall into the states that did not include themselves in the litigation, if you're not part of the 22 states, then your state realistically in 30 days can move forward with limiting birthright citizenship for all babies born after July 27, 2025. That's what that decision means. That means that your child born in the United States will not be able to have a Social Security card. They will not have citizenship rights. They will not be entitled to health care or Medicaid or anything else that would be allotted to a child born in the United States. That child, that infant, would now be deportable, which means that they can be deported. That is what the Supreme Court decided today. And although they didn't make an outright decision on birthright citizenship, by siding with the Trump administration, you have impacted and could have sweeping impact on babies born after July 27, 2025 in the United States. So that's where we are.
So if you're not a part of the 22 states, in 30 days, you should be very concerned of what that means for your child who's born in the United States. Okay? So that is the update. I felt that it was urgent. I needed to provide you. My apologies, I was interrupted by a call. All right, where were we? So birthright citizenship is going to be impacted. The ability for the federal courts to make decisions that will impact immigration as it relates to TPS, Biden parole, asylum, any facets of protection that federal courts were granting to immigrants in the United States, that is going to be limited, and it's going to be impacted by this decision by the U.S. Supreme Court today. And it is unfortunate, but that is where we are. All right, have a good one.
Yeah, bro. You feel me? Now everybody about to feel this shit. Everybody that was disrespecting us, asking them condescending ass questions like, where are you from? Where are you really from? Who are you? You don't know who you are. You don't know who you want to be. You guys are confused. You guys are this. We've always known we were from the United States. Everybody has always known we were from the fucking United States. Now, everybody who's basically turned against us is feeling the wrath of the... Have you noticed that everybody who's turned against Black Americans and has betrayed Black Americans is feeling the wrath of Donald Trump and his administration? Native Americans are getting embarrassed. People of immigrant backgrounds are getting embarrassed. Being told the same shit we've been telling you on the internet. Y'all don't want to motherfucking acknowledge it. Now you have to fucking acknowledge it. Because I'll be damned if my kids and my grandkids have to be bullied by foreigners on a land that they're ethnically from. Y'all got us fucked up.
Y'all, I'm so upset about that Supreme Court ruling. I'm literally shaking. I don't think people really understand the ramifications of what this ruling means. Any child that's born in a state that has not filed a lawsuit against the constitutionality of ending birthright citizenship, that means that those children who are born to undocumented immigrants will essentially be stateless. They will be stateless. If you are stateless, you cannot get a birth certificate. If you are stateless, you cannot get a social security number. If you are stateless, those children will have a hard time getting into schools. They will have a hard time getting medical care unless they are sick enough to need the emergency room. If you are stateless, you cannot travel. There are some regions that don't even allocate resources for their stateless people. And it can be millions of them. Stateless are very easy to be exploited. It is very easy for them to be trafficked because when no one is counting you, they won't care when you disappear.
A Supreme Court ruled that the nationwide injunctions on birthright citizenship is illegal, just like I said it was. And I already basically explained to y'all that what they've been doing with birthright citizenship is having people from different nations, countries, whatever you want to call it, coming here to America, right? Then they have a kid here, then all of a sudden that kid is considered American, and they get all the benefits over the real American people who are the quote-unquote Black Americans. Not only that, they're taking positions of power, such as politicians, you know, the senators and the mayors, the judges, so on and so forth. They're not even supposed to have that because they're technically not from this land. So when you have people from other lands ruling another land, what you think they're really doing? They're destroying the land that they own and taking all the resources and taking it back to their homelands. That's exactly why the GOV is like it is now, before Trump got back in office draining the swamp. That's how our enemies are literally running the country. We have people that don't like us running the country that we own. And they're doing all this by fraud and all these psyops that I keep telling everybody about the truth. So check it. Trump just made this post not too long ago. Giant win in the United States Supreme Court. Even the birthright citizenship hoax has been indirectly and hit hard. Think about why he said hoax. That's why I keep saying it's a psyop to make it seem like one thing when really it's another. And also he adds it had to do with the babies of slaves the same year, not the scamming of our immigration process. Like I said, they've been skipping this whole process by using quote unquote birthright citizenship. But the thing is, a lot of people that got the birthright citizenship for being born here, if this is reversed, this means the ones that was born here that didn't have citizen parents isn't even a citizen anymore. And as I mentioned, a lot of people in the positions of power, which is who we call the quote-unquote elites, they are literally not even citizens. Their parents was never a citizen. They skipped the immigration process and just had a baby here. Then trained their baby up how to use universal laws against the people of the land. That's how they defrauded and stole everything that we already had. But everything is still connected to our 𝒲𝒶𝓎 trust, and they can't hide that, and everything has to be returned to the owner of that trust. As in, the original Americans who are not citizens because we've left out this whole process, but most don't even know that. And like I always say, I got proof that I'm not even a citizen, but I get violated every time I show proof or any kind of paperwork to prove what I'm saying. So all our birthrights and inheritance should be returned. And also, I'm not sure y'all heard about that new inheritance law that's coming into play. And they're doing that because how would it be fair if there's people that have been inheriting things that have been stolen the whole time? Not only that they've been inheriting stolen property and land, they haven't been paying the taxes that they should have been paying because they're not even from this land. And when you come over to this land from another country, you're automatically a quote-unquote immigrant trying to be a citizen. And y'all are the ones that's supposed to pay the taxes, not the people of the land. But the twist of that is that a lot of these people have been getting them high-paying jobs through all that DEI money, which is for everyone from every country besides the original American. And all that extra funding they've been getting through all these other programs through the DEI that help support businesses that we all see don't make any kind of profit at all, but yet it's still running. Because a lot of this stuff was just a front, just to make people that look like me work non-stop our whole lives while everyone sits back and relax. Because they're literally not from this land. We are, and we're basically being slaves while they just sit there and be the slave owner chilling at the crib, making 5, 10, 20 times more than the people that's working for them when they're not lifting a finger. And I don't want to hear none of that stuff. Oh, we gotta do this paperwork, all this and this and that. Nigga, AI could have been doing that before we were born. Just like when the pandemic started, we seen everybody get sent home. Every job that got sent home and can work at home is completely fake. It's a front, and they've been using the government money to fund everybody else while they skim off the top. Once y'all get to see what the system really is like, it's gonna make you angry. It's gonna make everything else make sense. But of course, a lot of people know they're on the bad side of it, so they're gonna try to gaslight you. And these are the ones that's over here saying Trump is doing this for white supremacy. It's literally freeing the quote-unquote black people. Shit crazy. But anyways, quick rant. Hope y'all picked up what I put down. Y'all know how I keep it. Y'all be gods. Yeah.
Donald Trump is 100% standing on business with this Supreme Court ruling on the 14th Amendment. He says this was for the babies of slaves again. Check this out.
Through this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves.
So I agree with the Supreme Court decision for the birthright citizenship. Now, essentially, what happened was the Trump administration, well, the Supreme Court decided that these federal judges, which Biden put in right before he left, don't forget that really wasn't Biden, it was whoever was running the country. So he put a bunch of those federal judges in to block the things that Trump will be doing in the future. Because why did you put 100 and something black? Now, they ain't did that the whole time. 100 something black, see, they're using the race thing again. Black federal judges to stop him at every turn. Why would they do that? Anyway, so I agree that moving forward, birthright, I agree with it. Because you know what that means? That means people can stop coming over and taking advantage. And the thing is, people are so afraid to speak about the truth because they're afraid to be called a racist when it's not even that. Because when I talk, I'm not talking about just Hispanics. I'm talking about the Indians, the Middle Easterns, the Arabs, the Ethiopians, everybody, okay? The white, whoever came over here. You can't do that in any other country. You can't just go over there, have babies, and be like, oh, they're a citizen now. That's no. You can't do that. So why would America allow it? And I say that's good because it frees up space, jobs, money, aid, so on, and programs, everything, even just classroom room, because remember it was like 32 people to a classroom at one point. So it frees up a lot of space for us who've been here to be able to have a more comfortable environment. And the reality is a lot of these immigrants came over here and been getting everything handed to them for free because they're not a citizen. So they don't have a social security number. They don't have to report anything. They get Medicaid, Medi-Cal, whatever you want to call it. Free lunch. They get free tutoring. Everything is done under the table. They know friends, family. They hook them up with jobs, pay them under the table so they're not paying taxes. They have food trucks. They have carts. They have all these things that's cash only, and they're getting everything handed down to them for free and tax free. And that's why they can come over here and be millionaires in a few years and build businesses and all that, because there has been no proof of citizenship for years. So anybody, and I'm talking about any race, that come over here and be like, look, we just came over here as immigrants and now we can do this and that. And it's like, yeah, because everything was handed to you. You have no one that is putting a forceful hand and putting roadblocks in your path to keep you from being successful. That's not our case. Now, we've had to fight. We have to fight literally for every little thing. And it's still not what it's supposed to be. But I'm in total agreement with it. Yes, it should be only us, descendants of slaves. But the reality is if we do that, everybody will have to go except for us. That's the reality. But of course, no one's gonna go there for real. Maybe sometime in the future it'll happen, but the reality is, yeah, everybody would be gone. The country would be empty. Well, really wouldn't be empty, it'd just be us. But yeah, hopefully this ushers in the second exodus, and I hope that's a real thing, but who knows. We'll see what happens. Also remember, the only reason why we're going through any of this is because of the Biden administration and Kamala. Remember, Kamala was the border czar. Remember? And we're still missing those hundreds of thousands of children. Remember? And they're finding kids' backpacks and shoes and bones and stuff in the desert. Remember? Remember, she'd never been to the border, but she's the border czar. Remember? Okay. That's the real problem. Don't be mad at Trump. Be mad at them. Now, look, listen. I don't agree with Trump on everything at all. I think he's good for the economy. Obviously, the economy stuff has been working. But I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that he does. Just FYI. But I do agree with this one. There has to be a limit. Has to be.
And thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few.
So it seems like the Supreme Court just made a ruling on birthright citizenship temporarily in certain states. This is, again, the reason why elections are so important, because as you see, his loyalists who are on the Supreme Court has basically just gave him a reason to now continue with the raids that he has been doing and basically removing people out of this country. Project 2025 was not just a manifesto, it is real. And now at least 40% of it has basically came to fruition. Our Supreme Court is not doing by the rule of law of the land. They're not. They are compromised. Our Constitution, in which the forefathers of this country, is written in there basically protecting our rights as birthright citizens. So basically, if your parents had you on American soil, you have the right of birthright citizenship, because you don't know any other country, any other land but American land, American soil. I need everybody to pay attention, because it looks like either the 13th or the 14th Amendment, don't quote me, it's on the top of my head, but it's going to be compromised. Even when it comes to me as an African American, those amendments protect me, protect you. So this is going to be interesting to see, because not just people of color or black people are, all of us have birthright citizenship. So this is going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. But I am pretty much appalled that the fact that the Supreme Court has made this ruling. I know they got several other rulings that they're going to be making today. Yesterday, we talked about the ruling that they did against Planned Parenthood and really essentially cutting all their funding through Medicaid. Now we're here today with birthright citizenship. So what's next? We're only 6 months into this administration. And for those who still are being blinded and not seeing what's really happening for face value, I really need you to wake up, because this is serious, you guys. This is serious. But let's see what else comes down the pipeline today.
Hey, y'all heard what Trump just did? He trying to get rid of birthright citizenship. That means if you were born in the U.S., you used to automatically be a citizen. But Trump, he signed a new order that said not anymore. Unless your parents are a U.S. citizen or they have their green card. People took him to court saying it's unconstitutional because the 14th Amendment protects that right. But the Supreme Court just said we not stopping it nationwide, only in the states that sued. So depending on where you live, this might actually go into effect. So starting July 27th, if your baby's born here and isn't documented, they might just not be a citizen. Now, it's not confirmed everywhere yet, but in some states, it's getting real. Seriously. So let me ask y'all, is this fair or is this foul? And if they can take away birthright citizenships, what else can they erase?
Birthright citizenship and what it means. Like, this is my interpretation of what it means. Because 𝒲𝒶𝓎 clearly came out and said that was meant for the children of slaves. So he's basically saying, hey, if you were not a child of a slave and you had a child while on American soil, that does not automatically make your child an American citizen. So part of me had to say, well, hold on, what do you mean? So I think what he is saying, and I might be wrong, he's saying, hey, these people come across the border from Canada. and they come across the border from Mexico, and they come into the country from every other country, and they intentionally mean to have their child here because they want their child to be a United States citizen because it's the best country in the world, and it's the country you want to be a citizen of. Now, is that necessarily true? I don't really know. But at the same time, he's also saying you come across the border, whether you're coming from Canada or you're coming from Mexico, and you partake in American benefits, but you're not paying into the American system. So this wasn't really meant for you. It was only meant for the descendants of slaves. Bring that into current day. You have people that come across the border that work in the United States of America, and they pay into the tax system that Americans use, that those tax dollars then go into these programs such as AFDC, WIC, Section 8, all of that. So it's kind of like, I don't really know. But it's also like, okay, I get it. Because you do have some people that intentionally take advantage of the system. And I think those are the target. Just like we have politicians that really shouldn't be politicians because they're taking advantage of the benefits of being a politician. But they're not working for the constituents the way they're supposed to be. Because that's what a politician is. You're supposed to be working for the people, not for the millionaires, the billionaires, and the trillionaires. So they're working for the oligarchs instead of working for us. Love you, bye.
What's up, TikTok? I'm back again. So it looks like there's another uproar in the media regarding President Trump, with the Supreme Court upholding his argument or his ruling for birthright citizenship. So I did my homework and I decided to talk to you guys about it. So as you guys know, President Trump had made a proposal back in January to end birthright citizenship for illegal immigrants, or those who were born to illegal immigrants. And you have people who are using this as an excuse to say that he's going to target black people with this. It's not the case, man. It's not. Just please stop. So before we get into it, let's establish definitions, okay? What is birthright citizenship? Birthright citizenship grants citizenship to anyone born in the country, whether their parents are legal or illegal. And this goes back to the 14th Amendment that was ratified after the Civil War to make sure that slaves and their children, black babies, had citizenship in the country. That's right, the 14th Amendment was intended to protect black slaves' children. So it was not intended for people who were born to illegal immigrants at the time. So what happened? 30 years after that, we have a man by the name of Wong Kim Ark. He was born to Chinese immigrants here in the United States in the 1800s. He traveled abroad to China and he was denied re-entry into the United States. That is the man right here that is responsible for the outcry that we have going on right now. Not saying he is a bad guy, I am not doing that at all, so please do not take it this way, but it's just the case that he had against the United States is why we are here right now. And just to give a quick backstory on Wong Kim Ark, he was born in San Francisco in 1873, right? And during this time, there was also the Chinese Exclusion Act. And in this act, they had banned Chinese immigrants, and also they banned Chinese immigrants from becoming citizens. So they could not come into the country, and if they were already here, they could not become naturalized citizens. Now, this act was signed by President Chester Arthur in 1882, right? So that's the backstory on why we are here right now. So you may ask yourself, why is President Trump so adamant on this proposal that he has for the Supreme Court? Let's get back to the Supreme Court real quick. So nothing is etched in stone with his proposal, right? It is not official as of yet. However, all of the cases are now going to local courts, all right? So it is no longer at the federal level right now. It is at the small courts on the state level. So you still have a chance to fight whatever you're fighting as an illegal immigrant on this matter. However, the Supreme Court said it's not in our hands right now, all right? So that's just to clear up all the nonsense and just to give you a brief history on what's going on. Now, why is President Trump so adamant about this is because during the previous administration, we had open borders, right? And we had cities like New York, Chicago, my home, giving money and resources to all of these illegal immigrants instead of taking care of the citizens, tax-paying citizens in their own cities. Also, it was a loophole for a lot of illegal immigrants to use for them to stay in the country and for them to double dip. Them double dipping is, I'm going to come to America,
take advantage of all the resources, all this free money that they're giving us, and I'm going to have a child here. So now I have to stay because my child is a natural citizen, and you would not take a child away from his mother or father. So now we're going to take care of him. I'm going to continue to be illegal, but my child is not a naturalized citizen. Two things with that, right? It's wrong for one, because you should be paying taxes. Two, how dare you take resources away from people who are citizens born in this country or who went through the process to become naturalized citizens. You're now taking resources out of their hands, and it's now being given to you free 99. That's not right. And black people, please, for the love of God, we are not going anywhere. We're not. You guys, the media, they tried this with ICE, with the deportation, saying black people are next. That did not happen. Stop it. Now they're trying to get you again with, see, he's going to take away birthright citizenship for all black folks. No, it's not happening. Do not get caught up in what the media is spewing, because they're doing this to keep you from doing your homework. It took me 15, 20 minutes to look up the history of it, and I did my homework. And you know what I find interesting is that if this whole media craze and the current administration, if it's not teaching you anything, it is teaching you to do, it should teach you to do your homework, right? I'm doing my homework because you have, one, the president is proposing things. I want to find out why that is. And then two, you have the media giving off headlines and just nonsense. And I want to find out, okay, what is the real, right? Denzel Washington gave a great quote. He said, if you watch the news, you are misinformed. If you don't watch the news, you are uninformed. So what does that tell me as a person? Me individually, that tells me, okay, I'm going to read, I'm going to look at snippets here and there, and then I'm going to do my homework. All right. So I will not allow the news to misinform me, yet I still will be informed. You get what I'm saying? So there you have it. That is the background on birthright citizenship, how it came into play, why it came into play, and why we are here where we are right now. All right. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, nothing is officially signed off yet. It's just now been passed down to the local courts. So this is a big win for the current administration, President Trump, because, you know, it moves the needle in his favor to get this pushed through. So we'll see what happens, man. Am I for it or against it? Me personally, I want people to go through the process as they should. I do not want illegal immigrants taking advantage of the United States taxpayers' money, and that's not right, right? Eric Adams, he realized the mistakes that he did, and he left the Democratic Party and went independent. Mayor Johnson in Chicago, he is still fighting President Trump, so we'll see how that fight goes. But black citizens of Chicago have been going at Mayor Johnson for the way he's done things. The city has been ran horribly under Mayor Johnson when it comes to this matter, and the other things as well. So we'll see what happens, but please do not buy into the hype. Black folks, we are okay. All right, I love you guys. Be blessed.
The Supreme Court case has, they've had another ruling, which actually Trump basically is winning this case with birthright citizenship and not allowing federal judges to kind of get in the way of his jurisdiction on birthright citizenships. So again, what they're failing to want to let you know is that Trump's win is based on the fact that birthright citizenship originally began with the children of slaves. Our ancestors were the first birthright citizenships in America ever. And so then what happened is that, like, you had I think Wong Ark versus the United States that came in decades later, and he argued that he should be a citizen because he was born here. And they were like, well, it doesn't matter that you were born here, because remember, only the children of slaves were granted birthright citizenship because your parents are from China. Like, your parents are Chinese, they're not American. Okay. And then he was saying that Wong Ark versus the United States, which is what they're using now, what Trump is saying now, Wong Ark changed the law from it being just for Black Americans by saying, well, even though that my parents are still Chinese citizens, they reside in the United States, and therefore they have domicile in the U.S. And therefore, when I was born under parents that were legally in the United States. And so he won that case. And then that's what kind of shaped the birthright citizenship case. So we were first, our ancestors were first. We were the first birthright citizens ever in America. Wong Ark came to adjust that rule or that law. And now from there, it said that if one of your parents is at least a citizen or a legal resident of the United States and you're born in America, then you are now a citizen. Whereas what Trump argued is that it wasn't meant for all these people to have anchor babies. So everybody who came in here having anchor babies, which means that their parents weren't citizens, but they came here and they had a baby and now the baby's a citizen. We're using the law that was really written for our ancestors, which were the slaves, the children of slaves, as their benefit to use it to become a citizen. And Trump is saying that it was never meant for them. And he's right. And they can't just prove that, which is kind of pissing the Supreme Court off, except for the ones that are more conservative. He can't disprove, because that's the truth. The truth was that it was only meant for our ancestors who were the children of slaves. Wong Ark, he varied the law a bit by saying that you have to have at least one person, one parent has to be a legal resident or United States citizen for you as a child to actually be a United States citizen. A lot of the federal courts were debating on that and saying, well, no, we set precedents because all these people came here with anchor babies and we've been doing this for a long time now, so it should stand. And Trump's saying, no, it shouldn't stand. And so now he kind of won, because now a lot of the federal courts kind of have to stand down. States will have to have different, considerations. It limits the federal court's jurisdiction over presidents. So it is actually, he pretty much won. And so basically moving forward, in order to become a citizen, one of your parents have to either be a legal resident or a United States citizen for you to be a citizen if you were born in this country.
Now listen, y'all, I can't read, okay? I might talk country as hell, but I can't read, okay? But anyway, no more free education. Either so it's outlook, you look at the hatred and jealousy, you will not get a free ride no more either. Ha 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 ha. Now listen, you might need that free education, sir. I don't know what black Americans get free education. I think unless you're talking about the public school system, okay, all right, whatever. But you need it, okay? Because I'm getting tired of responding to your people that can't write complete sentences. Y'all just can't. I have to use context clues to understand what y'all saying on when y'all be typing to me and trying to be racist and mean. Then you talking about we have hatred and jealousy. Look at the hatred and jealousy. What hatred and jealousy do we have for y'all? Tell me. What hatred and jealousy? No, you're projecting. You're upset that your people cannot no longer ride the 14th Amendment wave. Y'all just can't ride it no more. For at least for the next 4 years, y'all will not be able to. So I know it sucks. Listen, y'all always been jealous of black Americans. Not just you though, my Mexican friend, but Africans, certain Caribbeans, certain non-black people, and certain people that just come over here, they are jealous of us. Because we're the only people that are not immigrants to this land. We're not immigrants. Y'all are. Y'all immigrated here. Some of y'all are refugees. We're the only people that's not. And y'all can't ride the coattails of the 14th Amendment no more. Then you say we no more free ride no more either. No, you're projecting again. There's no more free rides for you anymore. No more free rides for you. We never had a free ride. Keep in mind, we ranked number 3 in all as y'all say, welfare. Number 1 is the people that you wish you was, is white mom and white dad. Listen, white mom and white dad is number 1 in getting food stamps and Section 8 and all that. They number 1. And y'all are number 2. And black people just number 3. Ain't that something? So no more free rides for you. Shit, God damn it. I just farted.
Which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious.
That amendment was specifically made for black Americans, the babies of slaves, due to the complexities of the history in this country. They have to come up with that amendment. And it's crazy because the immigrants, the countries that they come from, don't even have birthright citizenship. It's not where you're born, it's who you're born to. It's blood right citizenship. Citizenship based on bloodlines, based on ancestry. If one of your parents is a descendant of a citizen, right? You can't just go to Italy. You can't just go to Ghana and have a baby and have no ties to that land, and that baby is all of a sudden a citizen of Ghana or Italy. It just doesn't work that way. In all these countries, it doesn't work that way. It's just that America, the United States, had a complex history where they had to make this amendment. Once again, even the countries these immigrants come from, there's no such thing as a birthright citizenship. You try having a baby over there and be like, well, this baby is a citizen to this land. No, it's not. Just found a loophole in the amendment that was made for Black Americans and the descendants of American slaves. Be told this should have been addressed a long time ago.
In birthright citizenship, Supreme Court gives Trump a win. What does that mean?
Now, and Xavier, Americans are watching closely after the president's executive order to end birthright citizenship. What's at stake here, and realistically, what are we expecting today?
Marky, there's a lot at stake, and that's why millions of people will be watching. And, you know, typically emergency cases presented to the high court are written and resolved fairly quickly. But President Trump's birthright citizenship order is one of the few emergency cases the court has ever, scheduled for oral arguments. And we may see a ruling as soon as today. At the center of all of this, the 14th Amendment, and whether or not birthright citizenship is actually enshrined in the Constitution. Judges appointed by both Republican and Democratic presidents say, you know what, it is. President Trump asking the Supreme Court to allow him to enforce his executive order denying birthright citizenship to U.S.-born children of parents who are in the country illegally. But the 14th Amendment says, you see it here, in part, all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. All right, so lower court rulings have blocked the administration from carrying out this order by issuing nationwide injunctions in dozens of cases. Now,
Multiple judges in separate cases across the world are trying to block this order from going into effect. Appeals are being made. What does that mean, you say? It means Donald don't care whether you grew here or you flew here. He wants them documents. News you can use.